All right, we start in the Middle East, where strikes continue unabated, with Israel targeting Tehran and Beirut, while the U.S. forces also press ahead, and the Iranian counterattacks on Gulf states like the United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain and Kuwait. Now, U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed relentless action until the regime changes, as the United Nations Security Council has called for an urgent seizure to avert a humanitarian disaster. SABC News correspondent Blake Sifton has the latest update for us. Blake, good morning. And just the latest, as you wake up out in Dubai in the Middle East, just talk to us about what the situation is currently.
Good morning. Well, as you say, the situation, the attacks, the violence continues unabated. There has been more strikes in Tehran overnight, throughout the night, and Iran's attacks on its Gulf neighbors, on Israel, continue as well. There were sirens in Israel overnight. Saudi Arabia has reported intercepting several cruise missiles as well as drones off the coast of Kuwait. It's been reported that an oil tanker suffered some kind of explosion. And in Qatar, authorities there have said that they are going to evacuate people living near the U.S. Embassy as a precautionary measure. Now, that follows several attacks on U.S. diplomatic missions in the Gulf in recent days. Those began on Monday in Kuwait, with smoke seen billowing out of the U.S. Embassy compound there. Then on Tuesday in Riyadh, 2 drones attacked the U.S. Embassy there. And then later in the evening on Tuesday, a drone crashed into the parking lot near the U.S. consulate in Dubai. So this does seem to be a trend, and authorities in Qatar are taking precautionary measures there.
Well, Blake, also just looking at what's happening in the Strait of Hormuz, because that is very strategic, and of course the world looking very closely at what's happening there because of the impact that it's likely to have. What are we hearing at the moment?
Yes, that's right. So, of course, for many, many years, Iran has threatened to close the Strait of Hormuz in the event of any conflict, any wider conflict, because it's a vital choke point, and they know that they could essentially influence the global economy very easily. So the IRGC, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, says that they have closed the Strait of Hormuz. There's been multiple attacks, near daily attacks really, targeting oil tankers, either with drones or maritime drones, essentially kamikaze boats, or missiles. Now, President Trump had said that the United States Navy would escort oil tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. No tankers, as far as we know, have tried to cross. It's, of course, incredibly dangerous. And we just recently heard from the U.S. Energy Secretary, and he said that the U.S. Navy would escort tankers as soon as it can. But, of course, the Navy is very busy with other things at the moment. So it doesn't look like those escorts will be arranged anytime soon. And even if they are, it's unclear if oil tankers would feel comfortable enough to take the U.S. Navy up on that offer, because, of course, Iran and the IRGC has focused really in many years in preparing their naval forces for asymmetric warfare like this, for attacks on larger ships, using small, agile attack craft, using maritime drones, using anti-ship missiles. So the situation there is developing, and it does not look to be any more secure anytime soon.
Blake, just finally, the United Nations Secretary General calling, of course, for de-escalation in these hostilities, or even, a ceasefire if possible. But as far as you are able to establish where you at, is there any talk at this point of trying to negotiate?
At this stage, it does not appear so. Iran has said that they will not negotiate under fire. Of course, President Trump has said that this operation, this war, will last weeks. And really, in certain areas, we're seeing escalation, not de-escalation. When you look at Lebanon, the Israeli military is carrying out strikes across the country. They have ordered the mandatory evacuation of the entire civilian population of southern Lebanon. That's around 250,000 people. They've told them to move north of the Litani River, which is essentially the border with that marks southern Lebanon. And they've begun what appears to be now a limited ground incursion. We understand, according to Lebanese state media, they are 6 kilometers into Lebanon. Whether this evacuation order is a precursor to a wider, deeper invasion remains unclear. But in front of this conflict like Lebanon, it is escalating, not de-escalating.
Blake Sifton, thanks so much for that update. We'll leave it there for now.